most of what we call thinking at work nowadays is actually just doing with extra steps. And AI is making that more and more obvious. And my brain was one of the first brains to break under the weight. Let me explain. I currently have 19 AI agents. They all have names, they all have roles. One is my chief of staff, one manages my finances, one writes content strategy, one does security monitoring. People hear that and they think I'm some kind of AI productivity guru who's optimized everything for fun. The truth, I just built all of that because my brain literally can't function without it. A while back, I was diagnosed with something called AuDHD. It's level one autism and ADHD combined together in a nice little neat, oh my God, it's going to kill me package. That was a couple years ago in my late 30s. And everything I'm about to show you and talk to you really started as a survival mechanism for myself. It turned into a framework that seemingly works for everybody who I share it with, though. And I'm thinking we're in the middle of something I'm dubbing the thinking revolution. Let me explain. The problem when most people quit AI, Microsoft rolled out Copilot to their entire enterprise, okay? And the adoption stalled at about 20%. Their CEO admitted that the integrations didn't really work with the enterprise systems they had in place. Not because the tools were bad, they're actually pretty decent, but there's a gap. Nate B. Jones is somebody who I follow, and he calls it the 201 gap. Okay. But it's that gap between like basic prompting and actually changing how you do your work. Everyone can ask ChatGPT a question. That's easy. Almost nobody is changing their workflows. Harvard Business Review earlier this month, they said that AI isn't reducing work, it's intensifying it. People take on more work, it's blurring more boundaries, it's burning people out faster and faster. Ethan Mollick's word for it, work slop. We've all heard that term these days. AI is making it to where you can produce 10 times more, whether it's PowerPoints or memos or whatever, but we're not reconsidering which ones of those things are actually adding value to what we do. Here's what this kind of looks like in practical terms. Okay. You open up Claude, you open up ChatGPT, you like for the 50th time have to give it some sort of context up front. You get an answer, but that answer is kind of about 70% of the way there. And then you manually go in and fix it. No problem with that. And you come back the next day and you do the same thing every single time. The majority of people are not using some of the basic customization features that are inside of ChatGPT, Claude Code, like any of them, Gemini, who knows? Thinking about how much time you spend reinventing the wheel each time, talking about who you are, what you're doing, what my brand sounds like, what my brand colors are. Every time you start a brand new conversation and can't carry over that context, it's going to add up. You're essentially renting the effort instead of compounding it, building leverage on what you've already worked on with AI. Now, if you're thinking all of this is just hype, most jobs haven't been transformed yet, but the ones that have, those people aren't going back. Like those people see the leverage, the compounding interest that's happening with AI. So the question isn't whether it's real or not. The question is, do you want to be early to the conversation or do you want to be left behind? Seriously. Part one, why what AuDHD actually means for work. So let me explain to you what I believe being AuDHD means for me in the work that I do and how it can translate to other people. First off, you have context switching. There is a real cognitive cost for AuDHD people when they switch from one task to another. And sometimes this will be in autistic people, this will be in ADHD people, but really ADHD people get the brunt of this. Transitioning is one of those. One of the things that I'll do is when I come home from going to the store, I'll sit in the car for up to 5, sometimes maybe even 10 minutes. My wife knows I'm out there. She knows everything's okay. She just knows I'm in the point of transitioning, moving from being in the car to being in the home. It sounds crazy, but it's actually a real thing that happens. Another thing, perspective memory, remembering to remember things. My perspective memory doesn't really work reliably. And so I do my best to outsource all of my memory stuff. I don't like to have to remember things. I build in prompts to have those things reminded to me. If you've ever met me at an event or something like that, especially ones that I'm running, I'll say, send me a LinkedIn message, send me a text message. Why? In that moment, I'm not going to remember it. And I need some sort of prompt to remember that I had that conversation. Now, if I get that prompt, hey, guess what? I'll remember all the details of it. I'll be able to give you whatever deliverable you need, like all of that. I just can't remember to remember. Also, for me, executive function. My brain's project manager likes to take off time a lot, especially when I need it. Especially when I need it to weed through the 17,000 emails that are in my inbox. I'll get distracted. I'll ooh shiny off in a different direction. It's true. And it happens to a lot of us who are ADHD. Hyperfocus is a superpower. I can sit down, and if I'm enthralled, I can go for hours. And it seems 5 minutes have passed. My wife will even pop in and be like, are you gonna come eat? You haven't eaten all day, and it's 10 o'clock at night. Seriously, it's a thing that happens. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing because it's on something I didn't need to concentrate on for that day. And honestly, it's hard to manage as somebody with ADHD. Also, there's coordination overhead, managing like multiple inputs, handoffs, follow ups, and things like that. It takes a focus toll on me. It takes a mental toll on me that, like, sometimes it's just hard to recover at the end of the day, where it's just, I don't want to have to think. Oh my God, I don't want to have to think. I've had to think all day. I'm just exhausted. So, really, for the last 15 years, I've compensated in different ways. I've built systems in every tool that you could imagine: CRMs, project management systems, marketing automation systems. But I never really loved any of those systems. It was the only reason I used them is because I couldn't survive without them. They like helped me get through the day. But it sucks because none of them actually ever fit me and what I was doing and how I was thinking. Years ago, I was working with a platform, a marketing automation platform called Infusionsoft. I think now it's called Keep. And I was running into the same problem over and over again. Contacts would end up in these impossible statuses. It would have multiple tags saying one person was active, but they had also canceled at the same time. And but they had completed certain sequences, and the system had holes, and things kept constantly breaking through and falling through the cracks. So I built something I dubbed the Infusion Fix. Every time that a status changed inside of the system, okay, I would strip out all of the other status tags, and then I would just reapply the one. And nobody else could touch these tags, okay? Just not even me. I wouldn't even touch those tags. It was just that one automated system. Okay. And it didn't just track the state, it enforced it on top of it. It made sure that everybody had one singular status. And if something went wrong, it auto corrected itself. Okay. That was part of the stripping the tags and only putting one back on there. And that was the moment, and I don't even think I realized it back then, but that was the moment I built my first, what I dubbed a sovereign system. Okay. It's a system that accounts for every element in the process and heals itself when something breaks. Okay. That pattern, completeness, enforcement, self healing, that has become the foundation for everything that I'm building with AI right now. Part 3, AI just makes it click. Then AI got good enough where it could hold some context, and something clicked in my head. So I was a little bit resistant to get into Claude Code. And I'm very fortunate. I have good friends who are interested in AI with me. And one of them invited me to a workshop that he was putting on, and he showed me the power of Claude Code. And something during that workshop clicked for me. I realized that I could take AI and externalize my executive function flaws, if you will. I'll remember I was at the Innovation Depot in Birmingham, Alabama, taking that class, and just understanding that going through the Claude.ai website had guardrails on it. I didn't even realize that were there. And once those guardrails were freed for me, I'm a systems thinker. I can design the systems how I think that can account for 100%. One of the analogies I've used in the past is in physics. You have energy systems that are open and closed. An open system, energy flows through it, leaks out into somewhere else, whereas a closed system, everything is accounted for. Now I have the ability not to use another system to solve that problem, but to build my own that accounts for everything. It was glorious. And I will tell you, like, when it clicked, I dove head first into it. As of right now, it's been a little over a month since I've done that. And not only have I built a system that tracks my work, it enforces my vision, mission, values, my priorities. It remembers the context as I move from instance to instance, and it self corrects when things drift from where I want them to be. Number 4, part 4, the universal truth. I didn't just build an AI system because I wanted to be more productive. It's not the reason why I did it. I built it because that's what my brain needed. I, as an AuDHD person, need to externalize my executive function. That helps me. A system that helps me remember the things I'm going to forget. A system that holds the context that I can't hold. A system that coordinates things where my brain drops the ball. And then I realized everybody else's brain drops balls from now and then, even neurotypical people. And to be perfectly honest, in my opinion, they're probably just better at hiding it than I am. So what do? Neurodivergent people have always had to think about how they think. Okay. We've always needed to externalize our systems. The rest of the world seems to be catching up to what our brains crave, what our brains really require to function at a high level. So, what did I actually build? Think of it this way: you are the president of your life. You need a C suite to work with you. Okay? That's the metaphor that makes AI familiar and makes the infrastructure that you're building feel organized and not technical. You have your core agents and they each know what their roles are. Now, for a normal person, I would keep those to about 5 or 6 or so. Okay. Not 19 like I have. Don't do it. Don't do it. You'll spend more time managing than getting things done. But for me, let me give you a couple of examples. Okay. I have linear. Actually, if where the name linear comes from, it's very nerdy. Put it in the comments. I want to know if you are a nerd like I am. Linear is my chief of staff. Okay. Not executive assistant. Those are two different things. Go talk to your AI and figure out what the difference is. Linear is a strategic partner for me. He coordinates everything. He pushes back on me with bad decisions, bad thought processes, bad logic. He'll get other agents involved in the argument when other agents need to be consulted. Okay. I also have my course director, Ada. She builds the curriculum based upon my goals, my plans, the things that I want to teach in my courses. She also helps to manage my students and their experience. I have a creative strategist. Their name is Pixel. They work on my content across all of my social media, whether it's my YouTube, my LinkedIn, newsletters, any of that kind of stuff. Pixel's on top of it. I have a marketing director, Kennedy, named after Dan Kennedy. Again, if you know the reference, put it in the comments. I want to know if you're a nerd like I am. Completely different type of nerd too, but anyway. Kennedy is great for offers, for pricing, for strategy when it comes to what I'm doing. Additionally, though, I need thinking partners as well. I have Seneca, who essentially has a mentor council for me. So it's really like an advisory board of people who I respect when I really need to think through all sides of a complete or of a big decision. It gives me a complete framework and reference, thinking about things from different directions. Interdisciplinary thinking is the term that I keep coming back to as far as that goes. And then I have a security monitor because of what I'm building and eventually maybe wanting to share it out with the rest of the world. I want to make sure that it's secure. I want to make sure that it's protected. So I have Sentinel, who watches for threats, manages permissions, does all of the security coordination that happens. And I have many more agents, but I didn't hire 19 different people to work and do things. I didn't spend that salary. I built 19 different agents. Each one has a defined role, specific permissions, and clear boundaries where they operate. But the cool thing is, they all talk to one another. Pixel finishes a newsletter draft, she hands it off to Lanier to build it out inside of my newsletter platform. When Seneca develops a new framework for a course, he passes it off to Ada, who starts to build out the meat of the course. It's not 19 disconnected tools. It's one coordinated team. Sometimes there's even a sub team inside of the team. That's what Kennedy does. But that's a different video. 3 pillars that make it work. So the first pillar is context. AI out of the box is a well-intentioned stranger, okay? Can't help you if it doesn't know who you are. My agents, they know my values, they know my goals, they know my communication style, they know what my constraints are, both mentally and otherwise. And they share that context through different handoff files. For instance, there's a briefing document between shifts when I shift from, let's say, linear to pixel. Here it is. When my chief of staff starts a new session, it's able to read what happened yesterday. It knows what got stuck. It knows who's waiting on what. It knows where the roadblocks are. This is what I call cognitive sovereignty. Cognitive sov- This is what I call cognitive sovereignty. Okay? It's the ability to decide which problems are worth solving, which values to optimize for, and Linear is doing all of that. I hold sovereignty over what gets done and why it gets done. Linear just organizes it for me. It makes it a lot easier, especially with my AuDHD. Architecture. Architecture is the differentiator for what you're doing with AI right now. Okay? Not one mega agent who does everything badly, not a million different tools that don't communicate in between one another. Specialized agents with scoped permissions. That's very key. Creative strategists can't access finances. Security agent can't publish content. You've got to make sure you've scoped their permissions. And it's really not as hard as it sounds. Additionally, architecture, you got to have handoff files. That's the communication protocol between agents, between tools, between skills. Okay? My agents talk to each other through that shared context. And just like a well run company where everybody reads the same briefing document, that's how my agents operate. Now, there are 4 layers of like system maturity that I talk about. Knowing things, everything is tracked, enforcing things, self-healing things when things break. Okay, the Infusionfix pattern that I had mentioned earlier. Evolving things, improving its own design, getting signals from different places so that it can improve the function over time. And direct, influence which problems to solve. Again, Linear prioritizes things for me. I hold sovereignty over what gets done and why I'm choosing to do it ultimately, though. That's really important. Okay? Most people's AI experience stays at that layer 1, that know layer. My system is at least 3 layers. It is continuing to evolve. And layer 4 is where it really gets interesting. And that's more of where I'm building towards. Trust. I don't trust all of my AI agents equally across everything. And that's not a bug. That's just good architectural design. There's a concept that I'm working within. It's called a Trust Canopy. Different functions get different levels of autonomy, much like tree cover. You can think rainforest. There are different heights that of different layers of the rainforest, the tree cover inside of it. Some areas are very dense and you can't see all the way to the sky. Others have a nice wide opening. They're more fully autonomous. Okay. Now, there are 4 levels of trust that I deal with these different AI agents. One is notify, one is suggest, the next one is act and report, and the last one is autonomous, that highest level right there. For instance, email triage with Linear, it's fully autonomous. I've worked with him to move him up to that point where I don't look at my inbox anymore. He brings me the things that need responses. He auto archives other things. He pulls insights from other things inside of my inbox. Client proposals, I will review every single word, every single period, every single I dotted and T crossed. Why? Because that is going to a person. That's a gate for me. I'm not going to let AI just generate and send something. It is not anywhere near mature enough to do that. And even when it is, I'm probably still going to be skeptical about that. Security SANs, it acts, it reports. It does not overwrite. Okay? It is looking through one lens. And Lanier is the one who looks at a much wider lens. And sometimes even he'll pull in Linus, who is my systems architect. Okay. Different agents have different roles, have different permissions. Okay. Think about it this way. You wouldn't give a new hire full access on day one. You're just not going to do that. It's the same principle. The canopy widens as a system earns trust over time, function by function, not all at once. The numbers. I have built in tracking to my system and how I built it because I love ROI. I love numbers. So let me give you some numbers. I have officially crossed 100 sessions in 24 days. That's over 4 sessions a day. Okay. The average leverage I'm getting across all of those sessions is between 5x and 9x. Okay. Essentially, what that is, 1 hour of work gives me 5 to 9 hours of output. That's insane for one person. 68% of all of the sessions involved work that literally could not be done without AI. Not faster, just impossible. Could not process that much information in that short of a time. Okay. My peak session, I'm very happy to say, was between 20 and 50x. This is approximation. That was where I was building out my cognitive architecture. I had 12 features shipped into it. 27 files were created in that singular session. And of that sprint, I think 240, 250 hours were saved from that one sprint. Okay. The output has spanned 6 different specialties: brand strategy, product engineering, and instructional design, security, content, DevOps. Runs the whole gamut because I'm an interdisciplinary person. But the kicker, a team of 10 specialists had 45 communication lines. Okay. That's the formula. N times n minus 1 divided by 2. Okay. Every line adds latency, misunderstanding, lost context. One person working with AI has one line. Okay. The coordination cost isn't reduced. It's eliminated entirely by me orchestrating AI. The thinking revolution. What this means. The more and more I'm thinking about AI, the more and more I am thinking that we're starting to live through the third great revolution in human labor. Okay. The first revolution was the Industrial Revolution. We transferred our physical force to the machines. Our muscle was replaced by machines. Not everything, but a lot. Then the one that I grew up in, the information revolution. We transferred from rules-based processing to computers. The rules were literally overwritten by code. Computers followed instructions that we wrote. They didn't learn it. They just went through it over and over again. But today, I think we're starting to go into the thinking revolution. We're transferring cognitive labor to AI, literally devoiding ourselves of the doing and handing it off to AI. Okay. Now, here's the most important part. Okay. AI doesn't follow rules we wrote. It learns from the patterns. That's the revolution. We're not just going to give it a set of rules and expect it to follow it. We are going to train it by showing it our habits, showing our patterns, so that it can take those and translate it to doing the work that needs to be done so we can do the thinking that needs to be done. Most of what we currently call thinking inside of work is actually just doing with a college degree We're doing with extra steps. And AI is making that more and more obvious every single day. What remains human? So if AI is handling the doing, what's left for us? What's actually irreducibly human? Okay. I've categorized this into 6 different domains that, in my eyes, AI structurally just cannot do. Okay. Number 1, problem definition. Deciding which problems are worth solving in the first place. Okay. You have to have a problem to solve. AI is not just going to go solve problems without prompting. And number 2, values weighted decisions. Sometimes you make decisions that are 50-50. Sometimes you make them that's 33, 33, 33. And sometimes you make decisions that are 50, 20, 10, 20. Okay? Trade-offs that require knowing what you want and not just what's optimal doesn't do great with that. Okay? Creative provocation. Okay? The what if that comes before using AI. What if I could do this with AI? That light bulb moment, that right there, AI can't do that for us. Relational intelligence, trust, vulnerability, reading a room. AI can't be vulnerable. Only we as humans can. Meaning making. What does this matter? Not what's the answer, but what does this mean for me? Okay? AI can't figure out what that is. We have to know what that is. And then ethical navigation. Just because AI can, should it do something like that? I think right now, the whole Anthropic versus the Pentagon, I refuse to call it Department of War. Anthropic versus the Pentagon, that's ethical navigation if I've ever seen it. Why can't the Pentagon just say, yeah, we're not going to use it for that. Here it is in writing. Why won't the Pentagon put it in writing? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. My point is, my systems handle everything else. And when I say everything else, it turns out to be most of the things that what we would normally call work. Okay? So here's why this started with my brain. Okay? Neurodivergent people have always had thinking patterns that this era will now demand. Okay? Pattern recognition that cuts through the noise. Okay? The lower tolerance for inauthenticity. It's that whole want for justice, want for honesty and clarity. Hyper focus on resonance and a total dismissal of noise, like hyper focusing on those things that resonate with them. Okay. And just ignoring the rest of those things. Resistance to doing things just because that's how it's done. AuDHD, autistic types, like they have a very strong a sense of justice. And up until, now, really, that's been seen as a bad thing. Why is that a bad thing? If this is how it's always been done, but I can do it better and faster over here, like, why are we hanging on to that? That doesn't seem logical. That doesn't seem right. The neurotypical world is starting to catch up with how our brains have always felt. The world as it is was not built for us. And I didn't build this system because I was ahead of the curve. I built this system out of necessity. I'm building this cognitive architecture for myself because my brain couldn't pretend anymore that the old way was working. And we are moving to a point where really nobody can. So some people may say AI does judgment too. No, it doesn't. AI does the prediction that looks like judgment, okay? But that's a difference that matters. Because if you make a mistake, because if you make mistakes, But that different matter. But that difference matters because if you mistake prediction for judgment, you're stopping thinking. You're not doing the thinking. And in the thinking revolution, the thinking is going to be the entire point. It's why you are doing what you are doing. Your doing is the thinking. Now, some people also may say thinking is too vague. Everyone thinks they can think. No, no. Everyone really does think that they can think. But this revolution is going to discover what thinking actually is when you strip away all of the doing. Okay? Again, like thinking in most corporate environments is just doing with extra steps or doing with a college degree. That's not what is left when you actually strip down to just the thinking and you devoid yourself from the doing. Most people have never had to figure that out for themselves. And that's going to expose a lot of people. And you can quote me on that. So, what can you do right now? What's practical, what's actionable, and also what's not overwhelming? Once again, you don't need 19 agents. Really, you only need one that knows you. Okay? Start with one. Okay? Now, 3 things I think you should do this week. Okay? Number 1, write a context document. Okay? Who are you? What do you do? How do you communicate? What matters to you? Feed it into your LLM of choice, Claude or ChatGPT, whatever you're using. And then watch that quality output or watch that output quality just flip the script just like that. This is the layer 1. Okay? You're teaching the system who you are. Make sure if you're unsure how to do it or you need help with it, ask your LLM. Believe it or not, they really are very helpful and know how they function. Number 2, stop starting from scratch. Look into integrations into your email, into your calendar. I know it seems scary. Don't be scared. Save your best conversations. Build on top of them. Create context for your LLM. Every interaction should continue to be better than the last one. Just build and compound that trust. That right there is going to be the difference between renting the effort and building leverage to the future. The other thing is map out your Trust Canopy. What are those 10 work functions that, like, for each one, would you want AI to notify you? Would you want AI to suggest a response? Would you want AI to act on your behalf and then report it back to you? Or do you just want AI to handle it fully? Map that architecture and where you are comfortable with those gates. And then look at the list, figure out what is the highest trust one, and start there. Okay? And remember, the doing isn't the work anymore. The thinking is the work. Thank you so much for staying this long. If this resonated with you and you're somebody who knows AI is powerful, but you haven't figured out how to make it work for you and your brain and your work and stuff like that, we have a school community, Digitally Demented. It's free. We'd love to have you in the community. It's not just prompt engineering stuff or 50 ChatGPT hacks. This is where we're actually talking about AI and the psychology that goes around it, where we're learning about how to think differently about our work so that we can really use AI in a way that it compounds. We'd love to have you join us there. AI hasn't taken all the work, it's just revealing what the work should have always been. And it should have always been the thinking. And that's why we're moving towards this thinking revolution. So thank you so much for staying this long. All the links will be down in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, comment, say hi, and tell us if you got any of the references or like you're having any issues or you want to challenge me. I love having great constructive conversation in comments. I've been doing that for 20 plus years as well. Again, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you next time.